Lisa Graham stepped out of the transport ship and looked at Academy. The building was huge and made of crystal that reflected the light of the twin suns. Alien students walked through the corridors, their bodies shaped in ways she had never seen before. Some had multiple limbs, some had no limbs at all. They moved with purpose and strength. Lisa carried her one bag and felt very small. Commander stood in his office on the top level of the Academy. He held a data pad in his four hands. His body was made of crystal that glowed soft blue from inside. He was reading the admission records. One file made him stop. A human from Earth. The name was Lisa Graham. He passed the file to his assistant without comment. Humans were curiosities, nothing more. Lisa was assigned to Dormitory 7. Her room was small but clean. Through the window, she could see the training grounds where hundreds of students practiced combat and strategy. She watched for a long time before unpacking her bag. Her eyes took in everything. The way they moved. The way they communicated without sound, using light signals that flashed across their crystalline bodies. The way they seemed to know exactly what to do without confusion or hesitation. On her first day of training, Lisa stood in the gymnasium with 30 other exchange students. Most were from advanced species. A few were humans like her. A tall instructor stood at the front. His name was Instructor. He looked at the group with what Lisa thought might be disappointment. "You are here to learn our ways," said. His voice was clear and cold. "They have built a tactical system that has kept the galaxy stable for 300 years. You will learn it. You will follow it. If you have questions, you will ask them before training begins. During training, you will execute without thinking. Is this understood?" Everyone said yes. Lisa said nothing. She listened. The first exercise was simple, created a scenario. Alien soldiers had taken a bridge. The students had to plan a way to get them off the bridge using tactical positions and precision movements. Every student gave the same answer. They would divide into 3 groups. One group would attack from the north, one from the south, one from the east. Approved. They practiced this plan. They did it again and again. Lisa stood to the side during these exercises. She was not fast enough or strong enough to compete with the alien students. Did not push her to try. This was what she expected. When the exercise ended, Lisa asked a question. What if the soldiers had already expected that plan? What if they had prepared for an attack from 3 directions? Turned and looked at her with light that flashed yellow. Yellow meant confusion. "Then the plan would fail," he said. "But the plan is correct. It is what we have always done." "But correct things can still fail," Lisa said, "if they are expected." "If you follow the plan correctly, it will work," said. "There is no other way to ensure success." Lisa did not argue. She simply nodded and walked back to her dormitory. That night came to her room was another human student. He was taller than Lisa and stronger, but he moved with less confidence. He sat on the floor and looked upset. "This place is wrong," said. "They do not want us here. They pretend they do, but they think we are not intelligent enough for this academy." Lisa sat down across from him. "They think we are unpredictable. They think emotions make us weak. They think our improvisation is the same as not having a plan." "How do you know that?" asked. "I listen," Lisa said. "I watch. I read what I can read. They believe in one way of doing things. If you do not do that one way, you fail. But the world is bigger than one way." Looked at her. "Will we fail here?" Lisa thought about this. She watched the twin suns set outside the window. The light turned the crystal buildings red and gold. "Not if we learn why they do things the way they do," Lisa said, "and then learn what we do that they cannot do." Over the next weeks, Lisa kept watching. She sat in corners during lessons. She attended classes that were not required for her. She read old academy records when she could access them. She discovered that the academy's entire system was built on perfect information and perfect execution. They planned everything before acting. They moved with complete precision. They never changed their plan because the plan was always correct. Humans could not live like that. Humans had to feel their way through problems. Humans had to guess. Humans had to change their minds when things went wrong. They saw this as weakness, but Lisa began to see something else. She began to understand that when the world was not perfect, when things did not go according to plan, humans could adapt. Humans could survive. Humans could think of new ways. One day, there was a simulation exercise that was more complex than the others. The scenario included an unexpected change. Enemy forces came from a direction that was not in the original plan. The students froze. Their perfect plan no longer worked. They did not know what to do. The simulation ended in failure. The instructor did not seem troubled. The scenario was incorrect, he said. In real combat, this would not happen. Lisa raised her hand. But it could happen. In the real galaxy, you never have perfect information. Instructor's light flashed yellow again. In the real galaxy, you do not survive by improvising. You survive by following the correct plan. Lisa said no more, but she was beginning to understand what she needed to do, and 3 months had passed since Lisa arrived at Academy. She was no longer completely unknown, but she was still invisible. This was exactly what she wanted. In the library, Lisa sat in a corner that was always empty. She read tactical documents that stretched back hundreds of years. She studied the Academy's doctrine. She learned how they had built their military system. The more she read, the clearer the picture became. Every victory in the past 300 years had followed the same pattern. They identified a problem, they created a solution. They executed that solution with perfect precision. But there was something missing. Lisa could feel it, even if she could not name it yet. One afternoon, she sat in on an advanced tactical lecture. The classroom was for senior students, not for someone like Lisa. She walked in quietly and sat in the very back. Nobody noticed her. An instructor named Architect Zero stood at the front of the room. His crystalline body was taller than the others. His light was brighter. He spoke about strategy and adaptation. The galaxy is becoming more complex, Zero said. Our enemies are learning. They are beginning to predict our movements. We must ask ourselves, is our doctrine truly the best way to win, or is it simply the way we have always done things? This was dangerous talk. Lisa could see the way other students reacted. Some grew curious, some seemed angry, but Zero continued. Humans have been in the galactic military systems for 50 years now. They have participated in 47 joint operations with our forces. In all 47, they have survived longer than expected. They have created solutions we did not predict. Why is this? Is it luck? Or is it something different about how their minds work? Lisa felt her heart beat faster. She gripped the edge of her seat. Nobody had ever said such things in a classroom before. After the lecture, Lisa waited until everyone had left. Then she approached Architect Zero. Her voice was quiet. You believe humans have something valuable, she said. Zero turned to look at her. His eyes were pools of blue light. You are the human student from Dormitory 7. You have been attending lectures you are not assigned to. Lisa's stomach tightened. She had been caught. I wanted to learn, she said. And what have you learned? Zero asked. That the Academy teaches one way of thinking, that humans think differently, that nobody knows if one is better than the other. Zero's light pulsed with what might have been approval. That is correct. Most beings are taught what to think. You are learning to think about what you are taught. This is rare. Over the next month, Zero allowed Lisa to attend his advanced classes, came with her. In these classes, Lisa began to see deeper into the problem. The Academy taught students to work from perfect plans. If something unexpected happened, the plan was wrong, not the situation. But humans had evolved on a hostile world. Humans learned to change their minds, to improvise, to survive in chaos. One evening came to Lisa's room looking angry. He had failed a combat assessment. The scenario had included an unexpected element and had adapted his response. The instructors had marked him as incorrect because he did not follow the original plan. They do not want us to think, said. They want us to become machines like them. Lisa listened to his frustration. Then she showed him something. She had access to classified files now with Zero's help. These files showed the history of human and alien integration in the military. Look at this, Lisa said. She pointed to a report from 20 years ago. A human soldier had saved his entire unit by recognizing a pattern in enemy behavior that was not in the official tactical database. The human had predicted what the enemy would do next, not based on logic, but based on intuition about how living beings think. They saved everyone, said. Why is this classified? Because it proves that the Academy's doctrine is incomplete, Lisa said. If humans can solve problems that they cannot, then they are not superior, and that challenges everything the Academy is built on. She showed him more files. Each one told a similar story. Humans doing things that seemed illogical but worked. Humans saving lives. Humans finding solutions that the rigid tactical doctrine said were impossible. We are not inferior, said. His voice was different now, stronger. We are just different. Yes, Lisa said, and they are afraid of different. In the weeks that followed, Lisa began to see a larger pattern. The Galactic Council had made decisions about humans long ago. Humans were too emotional, too unpredictable, too dangerous to trust with advanced military knowledge. These decisions had been made 300 years ago before humans had even achieved space travel. They were decisions based on fear, not on evidence. Lisa showed how to use his human thinking in new ways. She taught him how to improvise within the framework of the Academy's doctrine. She taught him how to adapt plans when things went wrong, began to improve. Other human students began to notice and ask questions. Soon, a small group of humans were meeting in Lisa's dormitory room, learning what she had discovered. Architect Zero noticed this. He understood what Lisa was doing. She was not trying to replace the Academy system. She was trying to show that the system was incomplete, that something more was needed. One night, Zero visited Lisa in the dormitory. This was unusual and dangerous. If the Academy administrators found out that an instructor was meeting privately with students, there would be questions. "You are searching for something?" Zero said. It was not a question. "I am searching for proof," Lisa said. "I need to show that human thinking is not a flaw. I need to show that it is a strength." "And if you find this proof," Zero asked, "then maybe we can change the Academy. Maybe we can change the galaxy." Zero's light pulsed slowly, as if he was thinking something very deep. "You are young and ambitious. This is good, but be careful. There are many in the Academy who do not want change. They believe the old ways are the only ways. They will not listen to proof. They will only listen to power." "Then I will have to give them something too powerful to ignore," Lisa said. Architect Zero left that night, but Lisa knew she had found an ally, and she knew that everything was about to change. The quiet observations were over. The real work was beginning. The simulation chamber was a large room filled with holographic projectors. Lisa stood in the center and described her scenario to the Council of Instructors. Commander was there. Architect Zero was there. 5 other high-ranking educators stood with their bodies glowing with different colors of light. Lisa had designed a scenario that the Academy had never faced before. An enemy force had attacked a planet. The students would be commanders of a defensive force. But the information they had was incomplete. The enemy force was larger than expected. Communication with the planet's government was breaking down. The students would have to make decisions without perfect knowledge. "This scenario is flawed," said instructor. "In real operations, we would have perfect information before engaging." "No," Lisa said. Her voice was calm and steady. "In real operations, the enemy tries to surprise you. The situation is never perfect." Architect Zero stepped forward. "I would like to see how she proposes to solve this scenario. Let her demonstrate." Lisa stood in the simulation chamber. Around her, holograms appeared. A planet, a star system, enemy ships on approach. She was the commander. She had to make choices. First, she broke the rules of Academy doctrine. Instead of attacking directly, she ordered her ships to fall back. The instructors watching made sounds of disapproval. Humans falling back was not a sign of strength. But Lisa was not running. She was buying time. She used the falling back to gather more information about the enemy force. She listened to their communications. She found patterns in their behavior that suggested they were not well coordinated. Then, instead of a straight combat approach, she did something unexpected. She opened a communication channel to the enemy commander. The instructors watching seemed confused. This was not proper military procedure. "I am offering you a choice," Lisa said to the holographic enemy. "Surrender now and leave the system. Your force is not strong enough to win here, but you can save your soldiers' lives by leaving." In the simulation, the enemy commander did not respond. Lisa had guessed wrong, but she had already moved her forces into position while sending the message. When the enemy attacked, her ships were ready. They were not in the perfect formation that Academy doctrine demanded, but they were in a formation that protected the most vulnerable positions. The battle was short. Lisa's forces took losses. Several ships were destroyed, but the enemy force was defeated and the planet was protected. When it was over, Lisa stood in the simulation chamber breathing heavily. The instructors were silent. "This approach was inefficient," said finally. "Your losses were unacceptable." "But the planet survived," Lisa said. "The enemy was defeated, and I used less than half the resources that Academy doctrine would have demanded for this scenario." Architect Zero was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. "Run the simulation again. Show us what the Academy's standard doctrine would have achieved against this same scenario. The simulation reset. This time, instructors used the Academy's traditional approach. They attacked directly. They divided their forces into 3 equal groups. They executed with perfect precision, but the enemy had been watching. They had adapted to the predictable approach. The Academy's forces took heavy losses. Many ships were destroyed. The simulation ended with the enemy force damaged but still threatening. The Council of Instructors looked at each other. Their lights flickered in different colors. Confusion, anger, concern. "This simulation is not valid," said. "The enemy force was designed to defeat our doctrine. This proves nothing." "I designed the simulation to test flexibility," Lisa said. "I designed it to show what happens when the unexpected occurs. Your doctrine assumes perfect information and perfect execution. In the real galaxy, you never have those things." Commander stood up. His crystalline body flashed with harsh red light. "This student has created a scenario specifically designed to make our doctrine look ineffective. This is a challenge to the Academy itself." "No," Architect Zero said. His voice was quiet but firm. "This student has created a scenario that reflects reality. The question is whether we have the courage to learn from it." The meeting ended, but Lisa's words had spread through the Academy by the next morning. Students talked about the simulation. Human students began to hope. Alien students began to question, and the Academy's leadership began to worry. Commander called a special council meeting. The message spread through the Academy. The human student Lisa Graham had violated protocol. She had conducted unauthorized simulations. She was being investigated. Came to Lisa's room late at night. He was frightened. "They are going to expel you. I heard the administrators talking." Lisa did not seem worried. "Zero will not allow it. He has seen the simulation. He knows it was valid." But was right to be concerned. The next day, Lisa was called to the commander's office. She expected anger. She expected punishment. Instead, she found something more complex. Architect Zero was in the office, and so was a visitor, a being with 4 legs and a long neck. His name was Ambassador Os. He represented the Galactic Council's Military Affairs Division. "There has been a complaint," Commander said. His light was controlled, now professional. "Your simulation has caused disruption in the Academy. Your doctrine is being questioned. Your loyalty to the Academy's mission is being questioned." "I have done nothing wrong," Lisa said. "I created a valid scenario. I proved that tactical doctrine must be flexible." "You proved nothing," said. He had entered the office quietly. "You created a scenario designed to favor human improvisation. This is not proof. This is propaganda." Ambassador Os stepped forward. "I have reviewed the simulation data. I have seen both approaches. The human approach was more efficient. The human approach resulted in fewer casualties. These are facts." "Facts that cannot be trusted," said. "A single scenario proves nothing." "Then we will conduct more scenarios," Lisa said. Everyone turned to look at her. She spoke quietly but with certainty. "Let me design multiple scenarios. Let me test different tactical approaches. If human thinking is not valuable, then Academy doctrine will win. If it is valuable, then you will see that." Commander and Architect Zero exchanged glances. Made a sound of protest, but Zero raised his hand to silence him. "Agreed," Zero said. "We will conduct a series of tests. The human student will design them." Academy, the inquiry team, arrived 3 weeks later. They came from 5 different species. Some were impressed by the Academy's traditional doctrine. Some were curious about what a human student could teach. They set up headquarters in a separate building and began reviewing all the data that Lisa had prepared. Commander assembled the Academy for an announcement. Lisa stood in the training yard with thousands of other students. The commander's voice echoed across the space. "We will conduct a final test," said. His light was bright and strong. "A human student will lead a tactical team through a live combat scenario. This test will determine whether human military thinking has value for the galactic forces, or whether it is simply unpredictable and dangerous. The results will determine the future of human participation in our Academy." The crowd was silent. Lisa felt every eye looking at her. She did not move. She did not show fear. 3 days later, Lisa stood in full combat gear. Around her were 12 soldiers. 8 of them were humans. 4 were members of other species who had been training with her. The commander of the exercise was a warrior named Captain. He was known as one of the most skilled fighters in the Academy. The scenario was brutal. Lisa and her team would infiltrate a military compound. The compound was defended by 30 soldiers. The soldiers had better weapons, they had superior numbers, they had prepared defensive positions. Lisa's team had only speed and strategy. "Begin," a voice said through her communications device. Lisa led her team forward. The exercise had been designed to show human weakness, but Lisa had studied everything she knew about real combat. She knew that overwhelming force often made enemies careless. She knew that speed and unexpected tactics could confuse even prepared defenders. She split her team into 3 groups, but not the 3 groups that Academy doctrine demanded. One group attacked directly at the compound's main entrance. This was expected. The defenders focused all their attention there. While they were focused, Lisa led the second group around the perimeter. They used the natural terrain to hide their approach. They moved faster than the defenders thought possible. By the time the defenders realized there was a second attack, Lisa's group had breached the compound from an unexpected angle. But everything fell apart after that. The compound had an alarm system that Lisa had not planned for. The defenders received reinforcements. Her communication equipment malfunctioned. The third group, led by, lost contact with the rest of the team. Everything that could go wrong began to go wrong. The commander watching the exercise smiled. This was what he had expected. Humans could not maintain coordination under pressure. Humans fell apart when their plans were disrupted. But Lisa did not fall apart. She changed course. Instead of continuing with the original plan to secure the compound, she realized that the reinforcements were coming from the north. She pulled her 2 groups together. She abandoned the compound objective. She moved to intercept the reinforcements before they arrived. The move violated every principle of the original tactical doctrine, but it was the right move. Lisa's team met the reinforcements in open ground. The battle was fast and hard. Lisa's soldiers were outnumbered, but they fought with something the Academy's soldiers rarely showed. They fought with complete commitment to keeping each other alive. When a teammate was wounded, another would immediately protect them. When a position became indefensible, the team moved together, not leaving anyone behind. They did not fight to win the scenario. They fought to survive together. The commander called an end to the exercise. Lisa's team had failed the original objective. They had not secured the compound, but they had survived against overwhelming odds, and they had stopped the reinforcements from reaching their target. Lisa dropped to her knees, breathing hard. Her uniform was covered in mud and sweat. Her team gathered around her. Moved to her side, his face bleeding but his eyes alive with the truth. They had survived. The inquiry team watched from the observation deck. They reviewed the data. The members of the team seemed convinced that Lisa had proven humans could not execute proper military operations, but the others saw something different. One of the inquiry team members was a female human named. She had been part of the galactic military for many years. She stood up and addressed the assembly. "I have reviewed the data," said. "Lisa's team did not follow Academy doctrine, but they survived, and they adapted when the situation changed. That is not weakness, that is strength." "She failed the objective," argued. "She did not secure the compound." "No," said. "The objective was flawed. The scenario assumed that tactical success is more important than human life. Lisa chose to keep her team alive. She chose to fight a battle she could win instead of dying in a battle she could not win. That is what every human commander should choose." The dispute grew heated. The inquiry team was divided. Some insisted that human thinking was too dangerous. Others insisted that the Academy's rigid doctrine was outdated. The voices grew louder. Lisa stood in the center of the room and did something simple. She raised her hand. Everyone stopped talking. "I do not want to replace your doctrine," Lisa said. Her voice was quiet but clear. "I want to make it better. They are brilliant at strategy and precision, but the galaxy is not always a place where precision and strategy work. Sometimes you need to understand what someone feels. Sometimes you need to guess. Sometimes you need to sacrifice something you planned for in order to save something more important. These are human skills. These are not weaknesses. They are different strengths." Commander stood. His light was steady. He looked at the inquiry team, then he looked at the Academy. "I have made a decision," he said. "Lisa Graham and all humans in the Academy will be granted full status as advanced military theorists, but with a condition. They must teach the other species. They must help us understand how human thinking works. They must show us how to blend human skills with our own skills." The academy erupted. Some cheered, some protested, but the decision had been made. That night found Lisa in the dormitory. She was writing in her journal again, but now the writing was different. Now she was not asking questions. Now she was finding answers. "We did it," said. He sat beside her on the floor. Lisa looked up. She had a small cut on her cheek from the combat exercise, but her eyes were clear. "We are just beginning," she said. "This is not a victory. This is the first step. Now we have to prove that we can actually teach them. Now we have to show them that human and alien thinking can work together. That is the real challenge." Smiled, he understood that Lisa was not the kind of person who would ever be satisfied with winning. She would spend the rest of her life trying to make things better, trying to change the way the galaxy thought about what humanity could do. And the galaxy had no idea what was coming. 8 months had passed since Lisa's combat exercise. The academy had changed in ways that nobody could have predicted. In the main teaching hall, Lisa stood with Architect Zero. Behind them was a display showing a new tactical doctrine. This doctrine was different from anything the academy had taught before. It did not reject the way of precise strategy. Instead, it added something new. It included human adaptability. It included emotional intelligence. It included the ability to survive uncertainty. It was a blending of two ways of thinking that had been separated for 300 years. "Your doctrine has been approved by the Galactic Council," Zero said. "It will be taught in academies across 17 star systems." Lisa nodded. She was no longer the quiet student sitting in the back of classrooms. She had become a teacher. But she still preferred to speak quietly. She still preferred to listen more than to talk. Taught alongside her now, he had shown a natural talent for helping other species understand human thinking. Together, they had trained 200 new teachers, human teachers, alien teachers, teachers who understood both ways of thinking and could translate one to the other. But Lisa knew this was only the beginning. The real challenge would be showing the galaxy that the change actually worked. A message came 3 weeks later. It came from the outer worlds, a region of space that had been unstable for 50 years. A conflict had been brewing between two alien species. They had agreed to let a group of new doctrine teachers come and help them find a solution without war. Lisa led a team of 6 teachers to the planet Is. The conflict was old and complex. One species, the, believed that certain resources belonged to them. Another species, the, lived on the planet with those resources. For 50 years, they had prepared for war instead of finding peace. The military commanders on both sides expected Lisa's team to help them fight better. They expected human tactical thinking to mean how to win conflicts more effectively. Lisa surprised them. She did not talk about tactics. She talked about understanding. She asked the commanders what they really needed, not what they said they needed, what they actually needed to survive. And she asked the same question. Within 3 days, she had discovered something important. They did not really want to invade Is. They wanted access to a particular mineral that only grew in certain places on the planet. They were willing to share the mineral. They just wanted to be certain that sharing would not lead to invasion and control of their territory. This was not a military problem. This was a trust problem. This was a human problem. Lisa arranged a meeting between the commanders. She had them sit across from each other and explain not what they wanted to fight over, but why they were afraid. The commander spoke about the needs of his people. The commander spoke about the history of invasion and conquest his species had suffered. As they talked, something shifted. They began to see each other as beings with the same concerns. Both wanted survival. Both wanted security. Both wanted their people to have a future. Over 2 weeks, they negotiated a trade agreement. A real agreement based on mutual benefit. No weapons, no conquest. Just two species deciding to help each other instead of destroy each other. When Lisa returned to the academy, the news spread quickly. A conflict that had seemed certain to end in war had been resolved through human diplomatic thinking. The Galactic Council took notice. More requests came in. More academies requested human teachers. More military leaders wanted to understand this new doctrine that prevented conflicts instead of just winning them. A year after Lisa arrived at the academy, she was invited to speak to the High Council of the Galactic Federation. The council met in a vast chamber. Representatives from 87 different species were present. Lisa walked to the center and looked at all of them. She did not give a dramatic speech. She did not make bold claims. She simply told them what she had learned. For 300 years, you believed that the doctrine was the only way to keep the galaxy stable, Lisa said. And that doctrine was good. It prevented chaos. It created order. But order is not the same as peace, and survival is not the same as living well. She explained how humans thought differently, how human emotional intelligence could predict the behavior of living beings better than pure logic sometimes could, how human willingness to sacrifice could create stronger bonds between soldiers than perfect execution ever could. I am not saying that the old way was wrong, Lisa said. I am saying that there is more than one way to be right, and a galaxy that uses only one way of thinking will always be weaker than a galaxy that uses many ways of thinking. The council voted. The vote was not unanimous. Some species still believed that the old ways were best. But the majority approved a new military doctrine, a doctrine that would be taught throughout the Federation, a doctrine that honored both precision and adaptability, both logic and emotion, both alien brilliance and human heart. When it was over, representatives from many different species approached Lisa. Some thanked her, some questioned her, some seemed unsure about what all of this meant. But she could see that something had changed in how they thought about humans. Something had changed in how they thought about their own species, too. Architect Zero found Lisa in a quiet corridor after the meeting. "You have done something extraordinary," Zero said. His crystalline body glowed with a warm light. "You have shown us that being different does not mean being inferior. You have shown us that we can learn from each other." "I did not do it alone," Lisa said. "Helped. Other human students helped. You helped. Even instructor, even though he disagreed with me, helped because he made me think more deeply about what I believed." Zero paused. Then he spoke something that Lisa had not expected. "I have been asked to represent a new proposal. The High Council wants you to become the director of military philosophy for all Federation forces. They want you to rebuild the entire system from the ground up, using both old knowledge and new knowledge." Lisa was quiet. She thought about what this meant. She thought about the weight of such responsibility. She thought about all the ways things could go wrong. "I will do it," she said finally. "But only if we do it slowly, only if we listen to everyone, only if we make sure we do not just replace one rigid system with another rigid system." "That is the answer I expected you to give," Zero said. 2 years later, Lisa stood in a high council meeting. Around her were military leaders from dozens of species. They were debating doctrine. They were arguing about strategy. They were questioning each other's ideas. And they were listening. They were actually listening to beings that were different from them. Lisa sat quietly in her chair, watching. She was no longer a quiet student. She was a teacher who had changed the galaxy. But she was still quiet. She still listened more than she spoke. She still believed that the best ideas came from understanding other beings, not from imposing your own ideas on them. At the back of the conference room, a young student watched. This student reminded Lisa of herself. The student was watching everything, listening to everything, trying to understand how different thinking could work together. Lisa smiled. She knew that this young being would eventually change things again. Not dramatically, not loudly, just by questioning, just by listening, just by believing that there might be more than one way to do things. That was how real change happened in the galaxy, quietly, steadily, one person understanding another, one idea building on another, one small change becoming a revolution that no one had planned for. Lisa Graham had arrived at Academy as a quiet new student. The Academy had no idea she could wreck everything. But she had not wrecked the Academy. She had rebuilt it, and she had rebuilt the galaxy with it. And the most remarkable thing was that she had done it all without ever raising her voice. "We'll evaluate them, and we will see what truth emerges." That night, Lisa did not sleep. She worked in the simulation chamber with Zero's permission. She designed scenario after scenario, scenarios with incomplete information, scenarios with unexpected threats, scenarios that required quick thinking and emotional judgment, scenarios that tested everything the Academy said was impossible. By the time she finished, she had created 12 different tests. Each one was valid. Each one reflected real military situations that had happened in the galaxy's history. And in each one, the rigid Academy doctrine would struggle while flexible human thinking would thrive. Brought her food and water. Other human students came and helped her organize the data. Word spread through the Academy that Lisa was preparing something important, something that might change everything. And in his office, Commander stared at the simulation data. He knew that whatever happened next would determine not just Lisa's future, but the future of how the entire galactic military thought about human soldiers. The next day, Lisa requested access to the Academy's strategic simulation chamber. She told the administrators she wanted to create a new scenario. A scenario that would test everything the Academy believed about how warfare should be conducted. The administrators were surprised that a human student would ask for such a thing, but they approved her request. Lisa spent the next week designing something new, not a challenge to the Academy's doctrine, a test of it. She created a scenario with incomplete information, unexpected variables, and multiple possible solutions. She wanted to see what would happen when the perfect plans met an imperfect world. And she wanted to see if anyone else would see what she had seen, ending to believe that she could do it. That night, Lisa wrote in her personal journal. She filled pages with notes about what she had observed. She wrote about the weaknesses in the system. She wrote about the strengths in human thinking. She wrote about how the galaxy might be safer if both ways of thinking could work together. She did not know that an instructor named Architect Zero had already noticed her. She did not know that he was watching her with more attention than anyone else in the Academy. She did not know that her quiet questions and careful observations had marked her as someone different. Something was coming that would change everything. For now, Lisa Graham remained a quiet student who seemed unremarkable. She sat in the back of classes. She did not speak unless spoken to. She completed her assignments without complaint. Nobody knew that she was building something inside her mind. Nobody knew that this quiet human girl was going to shake the entire Academy to its foundation.